The Little Johnny Chronicles number 16, The Darkness Series 1. We're going to discuss today why I came up with this idea of trying to outline the darkness, like the different levels of depravity, the different levels of malevolency in our lives. We started with the troll just to, well, one, honestly, to give me practice on what the fuck I'm doing here and trying to figure this out. But also as an example of how just using the troll series, you can see how quickly our behavior can escalate from being like a low-level troll, just a plain nuisance, thorn in people's sides, to where, depending on our position in life, whether we're a parent or an educator or a government entity, we could have policies or we could have behavior that affect people en masse, that affects their lives in a negative way, and it truly impacts it in a way that they have to react. And that's not right. And so, again, we outline the troll behavior so we can identify it in ourselves, and make the modifications, make the change in our lives so that we're less of an impact or a nuisance on other people's lives, because our society should be built on cooperation. It doesn't function better any other way. It's not going to be perfect. Things are not always hunky-dory, but we can work to make a better place. It's not that hard. And in that vein, we're all the ultimate hypocrites, because we bring our holier than thou religions, our social behaviors, our woke actions, and really what all they do is create more chaos and impact more people's lives in a negative way. And so if we make the adjustments internally, with the groups that we belong to, either will start to misalign themselves with a better value system that we develop, or in turn we can hopefully affect change within our own social groups. Does it work that way? I don't know. I think it has something to do with it. We have to take responsibility for how we behave, and it needs to be congruent with the messaging that we're putting out, if we're to be believed and have any type of credibility at this point in time. Again, just looking at our national political platform, you don't see the truth or integrity anywhere near those things, and it's endemic in a lot of the things that we observe in society. You could look at our families, you could look at our religions, you can look at our educational institutions, whether it be, public education or college. The huge cross-section of our society has just simply taken to madness. They've chosen that in the face of reason, in the face, like, we know better. We can see that there's a better way to do it. But we've chosen this poisonous tribal type of application to our belief systems, and it's not helping. And people think that we're going to get rid of one side, or if we can eliminate the other side, that life will be better. I just don't see it working out that way. I think that's naive. Matter of fact, it's another layer of evil you can lay on top of all the trolling that's been going on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to transition from the troll that helps us to outline how we can escalate the ladder of trolldom. We can also escalate the ladder of evil, the scale of evil, the scale of darkness, whatever you want to call it. And those behaviors that are in our heart are, the trolling behavior is simply a signal that helps us to understand that there are worse things for us to participate in, especially if we continue to align ourselves with trolling type of behavior, which is malevolent. It's not good. And it's contagious. And of course it leads to bigger and worse things, not better things, bigger and worse things. So I'm going to start off today with a story, kind of tell you why I came up with this system. I think it was out of necessity, but also what the system has helped me to do for myself to improve my life, and to identify the dark aspects of my heart and my soul, and to try to deal with them, contend with them in a very real way by one, admitting that they exist, and second, finding solutions to the problem, right? It's one thing to outline a problem, another thing to not bring a solution when you do that. Again, I won't use any more examples. I think we understand that piece of it. So I'm going to share the story. I'll outline some things of why it made it, why it mattered at the time that I went through this, what I think I gained from it, and two, how I was able to use it to try to just be a better or a more decent human being. I won't say I'm a decent human being. I think that's for others to judge. Like, they have to observe my behavior and say, okay, maybe he's one of the good guys. You know, you have to earn those monikers. But I don't think that's a bad moniker to have, is one of the good guys, as opposed to what I don't want to be one of the nice guys. That I don't want to be that either. But I don't want to be one of the bad guys. That's for sure. So here we go. So this story starts when I was young. I think I've shared that I started collecting memories probably when I was about 3 years old, 3.5 years old. Again, you could run the thought experiment of if you can assign a date and time to your first memory, or vice versa. If you think of a memory and then think of where you were at the time and assign a date to it. And I know it's different for everybody. Some people don't remember their kindergarten years. Some people do recall. I think that's probably pretty normal. But that being said, because you can accumulate memories, you start to accumulate memories at a younger age, you can add more context very quickly as you grow up. It's not that you understand necessarily everything that's going on in your life, but you get to accumulate the data points. And that's what I'm going to enumerate here, is just some of the data points I accumulated in some of these life experiences and what it led me to. And how it helped me develop my life philosophy, but also how it helped me modify my life philosophy so I can continue to grow. Well, at least I think I'm growing. Who the fuck knows anymore? So I was in kindergarten, and my dad used to take me to buy my lunch ticket. Take me to the office. They issue a little card. Back then we didn't have computers. So they issue a little card with little squares, and they check off how many lunches you bought. When you go to the lunch lady, they use a different color marker to annotate what that you've gone that day. Well, the problem was I had a lunch card, but nobody told me where the cafeteria was. And so what I imagine is that they eventually called my parents, because what would happen is I would get released from the classroom and everybody was supposed to go to lunch. It was kindergarten, so you didn't go to school all day. And I imagine what happened is I didn't know where it was, so I just went to the playground. That's it. And I remember the playground vividly, because one, I was out there by myself. Because everybody else was at lunch. I guess I didn't just think to follow the crowd, but think again. I'm 5 years old, and so I just didn't have direction. I just needed directions. So I went to the playground. I waited for the sitter, and the sitter used to come get me. And the sitter, I remember her name. I won't mention it, but she was a bitch. She would lie on me, and she would slap me. Back then I would get bloody noses pretty easily. I get a bloody nose every month or two, or maybe it was less frequent, but it doesn't fucking matter, right? I remember vividly getting light on and getting smacked in the face for it. Simply because the girl didn't like me. I don't understand. But again, the dark people in our lives, they would capture those moments. And so I guess eventually the lunch ladies or the office called my parents and said, hey, you're buying all these lunches and not one of them has been used or something like that. I imagine that's what happened, because somehow my parents found out I wasn't eating. At the time, my parents were still together. And so my dad, that's a lie. They were already separated. But anyway, long story short, my dad walked me to the cafeteria one day. Just said, this is where it's at. And the next day, they lined all of us kindergartners up against the wall outside of the classroom and walked us to the cafeteria. I guess it was a thing. Maybe I wasn't the only one. Um, but it was a. I don't think it was a hard pill to swallow. I just don't understand why I didn't know how to get to the cafeteria. Like that should have been just readily apparent. Um, but the reason that story sticks out of my mind so vividly is because I was trying to figure something out and I couldn't. I just couldn't. And then somebody showed me the way, and after that, I assume I ate and used my ticket appropriately. Um, but why does it matter? Um, I think because at the time there were other things going on in my life. So I could talk about the lying sitter, who was physically fucking just using me as her, I don't know, her outlet or some shit. Um, some of the sexual depravity I was suffering already at home. The unfair adults I had already observed in my life, how they operate, and simply that they have favorites, and being 5 years old, that's hard to understand. I know I didn't. Um, and lastly, uh, guidance, right? Like I wasn't getting any guidance, so basically, I was being transferred from one rogue agent to the next, from the shitty babysitter to the sexually abusive home to the unfair educators that I was fucking surrounded with, who again had their favorites and whatever for whatever reason. So you really can't escape the uh, the malevolency of those personalities, and you're 5 years old. So again, what did that cause in me? Maybe it taught me to fend for myself. I don't know if that's true. Again, I'm trying to, at the time when I was working on these things, I was trying to tease out some of the reasons why I was so bad. Like, why was I behaving so, um, I don't know, so ungodly? Like, that's just the word for it. Um, and maybe at the time it was teaching me how to fend for myself. Like, it was the lesson that I needed. It was teaching me that life isn't fair. It's just readily apparent, or should be obvious to anybody, that life isn't fair. It's gonna shit on you whether you deserve it or not. It's part of the fabric of our lives that we go through problems. And I think they're necessary to build that character, that resiliency. And if you don't go through bad times, you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Good for you. You just happen to be lucky. Um, did those experiences teach me how to be independent? I think so, because it taught me to stay away from people. Um, Isolation is not the same thing as independence, but when you're young, uh, who do you have? Well, you have your parents, you have your teachers, you have the aunts and uncles, the people around you who are supposed to protect you. And when all those systems are failing, you ask yourself, do I want to participate? And I think for the vast majority of my life, the answer is no. Why would I want to be around people? And I think it's a kind of a shitty way to think about things. But again, when these things are happening, and they're cumulative, right? When they start to happen when you're that young, like, I ask myself, why would I want to participate with people like that? And I look at my life now, and it's no different, right? I'm sitting here, I'm working on whatever project I am at the time, and I'm by myself. And is that a problem? I don't think so. When I want to get to the house, I get out. Do I have as many friends as I want? Probably not, but okay, no problem. Again, life ain't fair, right? It's not you can't all win the popularity contest. And then with that though, with that isolation, right? It it kind of informs me that I can change my reality. So if these people are bad actors, and they're doing these things to me, if I can find a way out, find a way to navigate life, to avoid these bad actors, and then why wouldn't I do that, right? My life can only be better, even if it's in isolation, or if I feel like I'm on an island when people do these types of things. As a grown up, that hasn't changed. I watch people all the time. You can turn on the TV and watch our politicians act like children. You can just look at your families and see how all these people are acting like fucking children. you you can go into any space, with it's work, it's school, whatever. And the adults in our lives, the mature ones, the ones with the intelligence, the ones that know better, they act in complete ignorance or malevolence, like both. They have no um, rules, or they're hypocrites, and they preach the rules and act a different way. Um, so very much so, as you desire to change, your reality, maybe even at that age, at that young, tender age, where you can maybe start to understand that some of those things that are happening to you aren't right, you can start to withdraw. Um, and I guess I'm lucky because I was able to pull that off without, um, I guess, becoming ultimately evil, right? Because without any guidance, a young person can go off the rails pretty quick. And I won't say that I was ever on the rails at that age. I think very much I was off the rails for a long, long time. And I mean, what I mean by off the rails, like acting in a manner contrary to anything that is good, or largely good, right? Most of my behavior was reprehensible, as opposed to laudable or good. Um, to me, to me, on the surface, all that sounds like is just survival instincts. I was just trying to make it. Maybe physically, my person wasn't in danger of permanent physical harm, but it was in the line of physical harm. It was, and my mind was in the line of mental harm, because I was already being subjected to adult behavior, which I had no business participating in. But again, at that age, what control do you have over what people are doing? And so, withdrawing to the best of your ability, and getting away from the grown-ups when you have the time, when they're not, you're not at their beck and call. Just sounds like instinct to me. Like, why would I stay somewhere where people were hurting me? Um, so really, I think what it did was it helped me to find the perspective to navigate my life. Up until recently, I'd been really depressed, anxious, angry, whatever the fuck you want to call it, my entire life. And one day, and it's probably not an epiphany to most people, maybe it's just common sense. But one day I had the epiphany that informed me that no matter how many problems I've encountered in my life, uh, God, the universe, had always given me a path out. It had always given me a way to navigate my way through, up, under, over, around a problem. At every step of my life, regardless of all the hurdles, you're able to overcome, and you end up in a place, and you look around, and it's like, holy shit, I'm still safe. Um, I'm a decent enough human being at this point. I'm not hurting anybody. And so the epiphany comes where, regardless of all those things, because that's just the beginning of all the nonsense that I've observed. But regardless of how much nonsense, evil, how much bad I've observed, how much uh, of the bad that I've ingested just by observing adults act in such a shitty manner, and of course my own fucking behavior, I was still where I was, and where I was a good place. I was looking around. I was in a home that I had purchased. I wasn't in trouble with the law. Um, I don't have any quote unquote real problems. Like, I I was in a good place, and so those things, those events, helped me to navigate my life for the better. And those are the nuggets, right? Those are the when you're hunting the the miracles in your life, when you're hunting for the good things in your life, when you're mining your past for gold, you see those nuggets and say, okay, shit, regardless of what happened or who was there, or all the things that I've encountered, I'm still here, and my mind's intact, and I still have the opportunity to live my life in a better way. And to me, that was eye opening. I think that was probably about 8 months ago. I was just standing in my kitchen. I was getting ready to cook something, and going through whatever I go through when I'm down, and that thought came to mind, and I was sad. It made me happy. It made me understand that it's not all doom and gloom, and that regardless of all those things, you're still standing, and standing tall, by the way. Next, it gave me some skills, and that's where the tier of darkness, the darkness scale, the scale of darkness comes from. It is developing a system, getting some skills to maneuver around those agents, those bad agents in our lives. And I know that those bad events informed a lot of my decision making process. Even if I wasn't acting completely moral, I was acting in a way that provided for that self preservation, the preservation of body and mind. At least salvage what I could until things got better. Did I know that that was happening at the time? No. This is all in retrospect, of course, but I don't know if it's far from the truth. It feels true. I don't know if it is. I'm not a psychologist or a doctor or anything like that, but to the best I can put it together, that's very much what it feels like. Those bad events helped me develop the skills, identifying bad things, bad people, and trying to avoid them or manage that piece. It wasn't always possible, but once you start to develop a system, I think you start to have more successes. And then, was it a lesson in self-reliance, self-sufficiency? Again, I don't know. I was a kid. Was I thinking about self-sufficiency and self-reliance at that time? Maybe I was just thinking about self-preservation, surviving, making it through those hard times. I don't know. Again, in hindsight, it feels very much like I was able to extract some lessons from that and build upon them as I got older. Through my adolescence, through my teenage years, and then, as a young adult, and then, all the way to now. Those ideas have not become invalidated. Matter of fact, they've actually been enhanced. The idea that there's a tiering system, a ranking system of darkness, and we have to understand what our role is in it, and what other people's roles are in that, and do we participate? Where do we participate in that, in the malevolency? Is it necessary? Frequently not. All right. And so basically what it did is it helped me to develop a method to the madness, a method to how I live my life, and work through and around and with the chaos that comes in those hard times, in those dark times where you're surrounded by bad actors and you have no agency because, well, if you're a kid, there's no way around it. And why is it so impactful still to this day, being that I'm so old? From the best I understand is that a lot of your personality is shaped in those younger years. A lot of the ways that you feel, your life philosophy gets developed in those younger years. Whether life is good or bad, whether it's fair, whether it's hard, whether it's easy. I don't know if that's all true, but the things I listen to and the things that I read explain it that way to me. And maybe even if it is true, we still have a responsibility to change. Once you figure that out, even if your childhood is hard and I mean truly traumatic, you still have a responsibility to fix it. Again, it's one of those things in life that isn't fair. It's just on the surface, it's like kids fucked up for it, because people have had way worse lives than me, and I hate to put that burden on them, but it's their burden nonetheless. And these are the people that don't deal with it that end up on the scale of darkness. They don't deal with their stuff, and it manifests itself in truly horrific behavior. We're gonna get to that. I'm just explaining how I came up with the tiering system, and how it led me to kind of avoid some of the pitfalls. At least I hope it helped me to avoid them. It helped me to understand problems. So what does that mean? I have these bad actors in my life. How do I work through that? How do I avoid these motherfuckers? Like that, one of them wants to hit me whenever they fucking feel like it. And others want to take control of my body, whether or not I like it, right? Again, no control and no safety, right? And you don't feel safe. But I assume I just saw it as a problem to be solved as opposed to a catastrophe. Because I never thought I didn't have a way out, or I don't have a way out of a problem. Anyway, but it also helped me to understand what my role is at any given time in any situation, and then also evaluate how much power I have. So do I have a power to change things? As I came up in the military, when I was a private, I could definitely understand which leaders were abusive and which leaders were authoritative, and which ones gave a shit. Um, and once I understood how that worked, I realized that I needed to get promoted so I could have some power, not because I wanted to be in charge of people, just that I wanted responsibility, but I also wanted to eliminate a bunch of the fucking trolls in my fucking life at the time. Shitty leaders who could tell me what to do, uh, and they didn't plan, they didn't coordinate, they didn't resource you. They just told you what to do and had you figured out for yourself, which is the antithesis of a leader. Um, that's not leadership. I mean, that's a fucking robot. A robot could do that. And so really quickly, I realized the faster I could climb the ladder, the more trolls I could eliminate from my life. And I think because I was so young and because I was traumatized, and that's just kind of the perspective I took on life. Not only was I incentivized to get promoted because I understood that, I was in the military and I was a soldier and I had a job to do, I had to perform, and getting promoted was part of that performance. I also felt at the time very much that once I could climb those ladders, I could avoid those shitty leaders, at least at my level and below, simply by being at the level of where they were at. And that perspective never changed the whole time I was in the Army, because at every level there's another higher level troll. And again, we discussed, for that reason, we discussed the troll series, because even no matter how high you get in life, there's still going to be evil motherfuckers. Again, you have leaders of entire nations, countries, that are evil. It's just, the evidence is out there. You Google evil leaders in modern times, and they'll come up. Anyway, so it doesn't work any different in any hierarchy, in any bureaucracy. But the higher you can climb and the more power you can gain, the more you can negate all of the trolls in your life. Next. So, now as a grown up, I can look at those parts of my life where people behave badly or I behave badly, and it's easier just to stop my own trolling behavior. Now that I've taken a different, I guess, philosophical approach to applying the hierarchy of darkness, where it only used to be used to evaluate bad actors external to me, rogue agents who were outside my body, who I had to fucking be on the lookout for. As opposed to doing just that, I started using it to evaluate myself and my own character. And where do I fit in? Where have I been a troll? Where am I a troll? Where am I evil? Where am I a criminal even? And there have been times where I fall into any particular category. And so just as the bad actors in my life have informed me as to what to avoid, who to avoid, what behavior to avoid. It's also helped me to evaluate my behavior and understand, what are my evils? What are my deeds that aren't congruent with, growth and positive concepts and things like that. It's important, one, for me as a being, I suppose, to investigate that and make better choices and have less negative impact on the people around me. But also, as an example for my children, for the people who, if anybody, looks up to me. It's my responsibility to be that role model, whether we like it or not. People say, well, I'm not a role model. You're a role model whether you like it or not. The control you have, though, is whether you're a positive or a negative role model. And, eventually, in my opinion, as you grow up and you mature and you realize that you're making all these mistakes, it's your responsibility to change that narrative, to change, turn that negative into a positive, because your life only stands to become enriched emotionally, enriched spiritually, and financially too, right? Because if you're not in legal troubles, you have more opportunity to seek out money that can't be taken away from you if you're breaking the law. Um, and all that just makes me feel lighter. Where a lot of us who go through things in our youth or through life, we put it in our rucksack, or we start carrying around all this baggage that they call it baggage, emotional baggage, traumatic baggage. Um, if you can start to just modify some of your behaviors and trim the fat, or simply acknowledge the things that you have done wrong, go back and apologize to people and mend those fences. I think that's like even one of the 12 steps in the Alcoholics Anonymous program is, mending those fences, trying to right those wrongs that you made, making sure that people know that you're truly repentant and remorseful for any harms you've done to them. And it has to be sincere. I think, a lot of the times we say we're sorry just to get ourselves off the hook, but are you truly remorseful? And so there's that dimension to it that you can't ignore. And so what it's allowed me, all that has allowed me to do, it's allowed me to discard the frustration, the darkness, the helplessness, um, at that of that part of my life, right, where I viewed that part of my life as completely like shitty, because a lot of the situations were. Um, it's allowed me to just understand what was going on, the black and white of it, understand the facts, and then kind of just set them to the side and understand that, okay, maybe it was traumatic, maybe it wasn't the best thing that could happen to me, but nonetheless, I made it here. And I've had the opportunity to correct some of those faults, and not only that, but to be that person that I needed in my life. One, for myself, and two, for the people around me, whether it be my children or my partner, or family and friends, or whatever, just a random stranger on the street. Um, my behavior is important, to my own personal growth, but also uh, directly correlated to the growth of others who I'm around, who I have power over. And either one is children. You have power over children the instant you're around them. You're a grown up. You have power at work if you're a supervisor, and if you get older, typically you will get more responsibility. More responsibility typically equals more people as well, and so you're affecting their lives in a very direct way. Um, if you're a big brother or a big sister, or one of the elder homies in the hood or whatever, you have a responsibility to set a good example, to be a good role model. That's how the people behind us come up. I'm gonna say again, and one of the primary ways that people learn is by imitating. They imitate you. A million times I imitate everything I'm doing. I'm imitating. Like that's not a fucking secret. I want to be a writer. So what do I do? I want to be smart. Well, what do I do? Okay, I want to be a writer. Got to write. Um, I'm imitating the writers that I admire. I want to be smart. I'm imitating the people that I believe are smart and that I admire. It's kind of it. All my hobbies are the same way. We all have to have role models, something higher to aspire to, and a good example, illuminates that better things are achievable, better things are possible. And if you look at people's individual stories, you'll see where they come from. Some of them come from painful backgrounds. So what does that mean? That means that I can make it too, regardless of what I've been through. And using this scale of darkness that I developed, it's just helped me to previously, it just helped me to identify who the bad actors were, but also inform me of where I could take risk. And we'll discuss that as we go through the tiers of darkness, where you can be in an environment and understand that there are other bad actors there, but are they better than you? And it's not something you should necessarily leverage. But at the same time, if somebody's acting, I'll use an example. If somebody's acting like a gangster, they're acting all hard, and you go like this to them, you can test them right off the bat and see if they really are that hard. I can almost guarantee you most of them are not. I don't recommend you just go around doing that. Again, this is a system that I've used for a long time, and so I just kind of know how to exercise it. You have to be judicious with the exercise, the tier of darkness, when you're trying to use it as an advantage. But we'll get into all that stuff. We're going to talk about, the evil within us, the truly malevolent behavior, not trolling. Trolling is not illegal. You can be a fucking asshole any day of the week. Is it good? I don't think so. Uh, but I think that's the spark that ignites the fire to burn for the higher tiers to develop, and for you to participate into more of a malevolent behavior and go deeper into the darkness. But and again, I mentioned all these things. What remind me of the tier of darkness, and to just maybe want to talk about it, all the things that are going on right now, all the things that are going on with our politics, all the things that go on social media, all the things that go on the mainstream media, the schools, whether it be college or elementary. You can just walk out into society and look at any protest and see that just plainly, there's not a lot of thought. It's just some sort of hypnotic trance. And they look these people, my people, look very possessed at the moment. And I think we need to snap out of that hypnosis, the hypnosis that causes us to take our problems out on each other, to not lend a helping hand, especially when we have the resources, to mismanage everything because we're selfish and we're lazy, all the different things. I keep seeing that. And maybe by outlining it and just showing people and showing them and demonstrating them to their face where they fall into that category, and how damaging and destructive it is, and how it's just simply the antithesis of probably everything they believe in. Maybe we'll get them to change their mind. Maybe we'll start to talk to each other again in a constructive manner. Maybe we'll start to talk to each other, tell each other the ugly truths, but also work to heal each other's wounds. I think that's what a healthy society does. It's not like now where we're tearing each other down at every opportunity, whether it's in the comment sections, whether it's here on the internet and in other capacities. I'm just kind of disappointed with the whole thing, and I'm ready to move on from all this shit. And just like a little kid can look at adults and understand how evil they're behaving. The grown up, it should just be apparent. It should just be obvious that people are acting in a manner non-congruent with positive behavior, but also that we as individuals are part of the problem. Have a great day.